Hello and welcome to 3-Minute Gaming. I'm Nathan, and today we're going to break Dark Souls 3. So welcome back to OP in 1 hour, the series where I make beginner's guides on how to get totally jacked and out of control within the first hour-ish of a game. And today's the day that we end the guide trilogy with Dark Souls 3, a game fairly different than its predecessors with faster combat, but if you're struggling, don't worry, I'm here to get you overpowered enough to curb stomp even the toughest poison swamp. We got a ton to cover, so no dallying, let's jump right in. Here's how to get insanely overpowered as a beginner in around an hour in Dark Souls 3. At the start of the game, which character you pick is up to you. But no, this is not a magic-oriented class we're working on, and you're gonna need to hit 14 dex and 20 strength as soon as possible, so I recommend warrior or knight. For your gift, they're all fine, but I personally would recommend black fire bombs, as they make the beginning portions a little easier. Now in the cemetery, you're just gonna need to go through the intro and kill that first boss, who is a bit of a skill check if you're new to the series. A few quick tips: hit him as soon as he's done his starting animation for some free punches, and when he transforms, the black fire bombs do a ton of damage. Just make sure you have at least one left. After that, you'll grab the sword and head to Firelink to meet the waifu, activate the bonfire, and spend a couple points to level up. This is where the game properly starts, as you're supposed to warp to the first area, but this is an OP in 1 hour guide, so let's get some good stuff around town. Head up the stairs within Firelink and then out the back near the tower. Now while the tower's locked and there's a lady in Firelink who wants 20,000 souls to open it, we're gonna say nah dog and just cheese it. Take off all your clothes and armor because I like the way you look like that. Nah, I'm just kidding. We want to be as light as possible, and run by holding B or circle towards the nearby tree. When near the top, you're gonna click the left stick to do a jump. Your goal here is to land on the roof. Now this is tricky and will take a couple of tries, but eventually you will make it up. Now that we've conquered the mighty 2-foot rise, slap your gear back on and head around to the back of this area. This next part's optional, but there is a jewel lizard here we might as well kill. Once it's dead, you get the twinkling titanite, head back to the front, and there will be an entrance into the rafters. On here, carefully walk to a nearby item, which is an Estus shard, which will give us a permanent extra flask. Very nice early on. Then head to the middle where you can find the crows who will trade you stuff. For this build, nothing they drop is super important, but I do recommend dropping a firebomb, black firebomb, and homeward bone to get a couple of goodies, but that is not the reason we are actually here. If you head down the other side of the rafters, one of them leads straight into a wall, which is an illusion. Hit it and keep going forward until you see a ledge with the chest. Drop down here and be aware you'll take some damage, and open it to find, yep, it's that covetous silver serpent ring. Gotten ridiculously early just like in the Dark Souls 2 guide, and it gives you 10% more souls. Slapping this thing on early helps a ton with leveling fast. We're ready to continue the game, but be sure to hit up the smith who will give you that extra Estus, and possibly convert your one magic Estus into a Healy one. Also, if you have extra souls, you're going to need 100 arrows from the shopkeeper, so buy them now or later whenever you feel like, and then we're off to Leoric's Big Dumb Wall. So Leoric's Big Dumb Wall is a fairly large starting area. I'm not going to go over everything in it, but I will cover some important activities you'll not want to miss. First off, as you enter, head to the right towards a nearby tower. Once you get up to the tower, make sure you run in quick and kill the innocent looking guy in the middle, as he will transform into something nastier if you don't. On the left side of said tower is what we're here for, a longbow and some arrows. This is now a dead end, so we're going to go back to the bonfire. From here, you'll go left down the only other path, which crosses a bridge through a dark room and eventually pops out above a wall. Now you're going to want to pause before you go down and examine it. There's a lower path with armored enemies and an upper path with a building in the back. What you're going to need to do is run as fast as possible to that building, ignoring all the enemies along the way, because the second you touch that bridge, a wyvern will come down and bathe it in fire, locking you from access. However, if you get to the door first, you'll be safe. Once inside, don't touch the chest in the room yet. It is a mimic that we are going to come back for. Instead, climb the ladder and unlock the door so you have a way in that's 80% less wyverny. The tower in front of you has a bonfire, so head to the top that way, but watch out for the knight. He's one of the toughest normal enemies you've hit thus far. Alright, we have a forward bonfire, and that room's unlocked. In case you screwed up, let's get rid of the wyvern anyway. At this point, you should hopefully have that 14 dex. If not, grind a little for it. Feel free to explore and journey around. After all that, head back down in the bonfire tower and stand in the doorway after killing all the nearby enemies, and start taking pot shots at the dragon with your longbow. He will get pissed and blow fire at you, but it'll all be in front of you because fire can't go through doorways. So laugh at him and just keep tickling. It will take about 60 to 70 normal arrows, so you're gonna have to be patient, but once his health drops to a quarter, the big idiot will finally leave. Now you can head back to the bridge that he was roasting, the upper level, clear out the guys, and grab the items. The one we really want is on the far end, the Claymore. This is a fantastic weapon which you could take through the whole game if we weren't, getting a better one, as it does a ton of damage, but more importantly does a lot of poise damage, which will stagger annoying enemies in this area, particularly those knights. I recommend using this one now so you can get used to slower weapons, and also upgrading it since we're not going to use the titanite for anything else. With the cool new greatsword, it's time to get rid of that mimic. I have a few tips because he is pretty tricky. He will he'll kill you in pretty much 2 hits, and if he grabs you, you're dead instantly. So try to not be in front of him. Also, whenever he swings his arms, he almost always does a second swing, so don't go in trying to hit him until that second one's done, and eventually you'll take him out. The reason we're killing him is he drops an axe that has the dark element on it. Now, this isn't a great weapon to use normally, but the first boss has a darkness weakness, so getting this will make that fight much easier. If you really can't kill the Mimic, consider it optional, and we'll just use the Claymore on the boss. Now is where I will leave you to finish playing through the zone, noting that there are a few things you want to make sure you get, specifically the Estus shard in the barracks on the anvil. This is also near a cell key, which will unlock the cell at the base of the tower with the bonfire, which you'll want to do as well. Eventually, you will hit a big room that is clearly the boss, as there's a big scary door on the far side. Don't go in there yet. Instead, turn around, go straight through the knights and into the chapel where you'll talk to a lady who gives you a flag that you need to continue. Now, before fighting the boss, we're going to have to kill a powerful foe that'll make that fight easier. Head back to Firelink, go out the small side door, and head directly right. Up the hill, you'll see a naked dude with a giant samurai sword. This is the guy we're going to kill. Samurai Jack here is very tough. However, there are some tricks to knock him down. A common one is kicking him off the side, though I've never had much luck with that. Personally, because the Claymore staggers him pretty much every second hit, if you're careful, you can nearly stun lock him to death. So if you play it safe, you'll be able to execute him. Once he's done, grab his stuff, and let's go back to that boss. At the entrance to the boss, pop an Ember if you aren't already in toasty mode. You will now see a white summoning sign on the floor, and it's Samurai Jack. Remember how he was strong back then? Well, now he's fighting for us, and he's gonna make this fight super easy. Double hand that dark axe, and get ready to fight Vordt of the Boreal Valley. So this boss fight is actually pretty easy if you have both the samurai and this axe. The main strat is to stay behind him, as he has several lengthy attacks where he stands still barfing in front of him, where you can take tons of pot shots. Just keep on his butt, and he'll go down quickly. Killing him grants his soul, which is exactly what we want, as it's going to be turned into our overpowered weapon. Continue forward and plant the flag, and you'll be whisked away to the next area. But let's take a brief break here and talk leveling. So by this point, you've probably gained a few levels and want to know where to put points. Well, early on, it's pretty easy. As mentioned, you want 20 in strength and 14 in dex. After that, however, you're going to have to make some choices. The weapon we're getting is extremely heavy, so early points in fight will allow you to wear better armor when you get it. You're also going to want some points in endurance and vigor for stamina and health respectively, so don't neglect them. But ultimately, our end goal is going to be like this. For strength, you're going to start at 20, then 30 so you can one-hand it, then 40, which is the first soft cap, and 60, which is the second soft cap. Don't go hard in 60. Endurance, you want to get to 35. Vigor, you want to get to 35. Vitality, you want to get to 30. Then you want 14 to 16 dex, which is based on whether you want to use an offhand parry weapon or whatever. It's up to you. These are your end goals in the long run, so just put points in what currently feels good. Alright, back to the actual gameplay. We got our soul, but we can't turn it into our giant death hammer until we get a specific item, which is in the next area. Welcome to the Undead Village, aka Bloodborne 2. Like the high wall, I'm not going to give a step-by-step guide, but there are a few things you'll need to do here. First off, you're going to head to that house, head right across the bridge, but you're not going to go into the stable. Instead, you're going to cut across in front through the boxes, fight a bunch of those stupid annoying gremlins, and in the back, you'll find a guy with a cage on his back. Don't kill him. Instead, walk up to his cage and press use to go for a piggyback ride. He'll drop you off in a big scary pit, so just run forward and talk to the guy to get some covenant information, and he'll give you a homeward bone so you can bail. You need to visit this area before doing the next boss, so don't skip it. After that, you're just going to continue as usual until you reach the second bonfire. The only really important loot of note is there's an Estus shard in that giant Burning Man party that's going on. Just don't aggro them all at once. Trust me. The bonfire you hit by the bridge is a crucial one. In the cemetery down the road, a giant will toss spears at you, which is very annoying. On a small outcropping along the cliff, there's an item called the Undead Bone Shard, which you are going to want, as burning it increases your Estus potency. However, it can be a little tricky to get right now, so if you want to wait until we make peace with the giant, that's fine. Just make sure you grab a branch from off the tree. Either way, you're going to break into the house on the far side, head upstairs. Eventually, you'll reach a split inside a castle where the left is a massive open space and the right is a door. That space to the left is the boss that has the item we want. However, we're probably going to want to save for bonfire just in case. So if you do, you can head right, go down the stairs, then up on the right-hand side, through the village to the left. After that, roll off the side, the lower cliff pathway, head forward and underground, and there's a closer bonfire. I would suggest spending all your souls now, as we're going to fight a big dumb tree. So the cursed rotted Greatwood is a somewhat gimmicky boss who weirdly is much harder in his first phase than second. During the first, he spawns a near infinite number of villagers to defend him, so don't prioritize them. The trick to this boss is you can only damage him if you hit his gross pustules, which are mostly on his junk, with some of his hands, feet, and backside. You can also toss fire bombs at him for a good amount of damage, but popping the zits will eat away at his health. Once you get him to about half, he does a jump and breaks through the floor, crushing that covenant we found earlier. Whoopsie. Anyway, phase 2 is actually quite easier. He spawns a new arm to try and grab at you, but it's in the front, so just don't go up there. His attacks are very slow, and he usually just does a butt stomp. Play it safe and pop all his zits until he's dead. Killing him drops the transposing kiln, which means it's finally time to break the game for realsies. Warp back to Firelink and look at the thrones overlooking the center. The second from the left still has a guy sitting on it, so go talk to him and give him the kiln. You can now swap boss souls for gear. Trade in that boss soul for the Vordt Great Hammer. Don't even look at what you can make instead. The ring is not as good as it reads, trust me. The hammer is way better. Okay, so I've really been slow rolling describing this weapon, but honestly, it's one of the most absurd things in the game, and here is why. First, it has absolutely insane range on its swings. You'll murder enemies you didn't even see. Second, it's one of the few weapons in the game that does frost damage, and usually fully builds it up with just 2 hits. Frost is an insane status effect that does 11% max health on proc, reduces their stamina, and increases the damage they take by 7%. You can also technically remove it with fire and reapply it should you want to be spicy. If you want to go this way, put a fire dagger in your left hand. Third, the weapon has amazing base damage, but also fantastic strength scaling. See from the very start, meaning every point in strength makes it much stronger. Fourth, if you're two-handing it and press L2, you'll use its ability that makes you basically unable to be interrupted or knocked down for a short time. Go monkey mode on bosses. And lastly, it just looks awesome. It's shaped like a snowflake and sheds dandruff wherever you walk. Get it some head and shoulders, come on. Now, for the sake of fairness, I'll talk about its downsides. First, it makes the game way too easy, so weirdos online will say you're not having a true Dark Souls experience. Yeah, I'm just kidding. I'll give you the actual cons. First, it is very heavy, which is the first thing you'll notice when you equip it. This is why we need more Vite, as you'll probably have to swap some armor down in order to not fat roll. Second, it is pretty slow. To be fair, it does have reasonable stamina usage for a great hammer, but yeah, it's not fast. You're going to need to learn to play around it. And lastly, the upgrade material for this is actually pretty hard to find, particularly in the first third of the game, and its max upgrade is +5. It uses Titanite scales, but guess what? You actually had access to one from the start of the game, you just didn't know it. So let's go get it. Warp back to Cemetery of Ash and head back in, and then left down a secret trail. You may have accidentally wandered here during the tutorial and got killed, but we're back with a big F-off stick to kill this crystalline entity. Smash its face and it gives you a Titanite scale, perfect for upgrading our hammer to +1. This is a massive upgrade early, so now you'll be even more busted. Alright, so we have our huge upgraded bonk stick, and for me this was about an hour-ish through, but I've played this game before so your mileage may vary, but there's still more great stuff to find in this village, so let me tell you about it. First, from that underground waypoint, if you head down and around, eventually you'll find a sewer full of rats. This unlocks a shortcut, but also the Caestus, a fist weapon with a great parry animation. If you want to be an extra cool guy, once you have 30 strength, you can put it in your left hand and your hammer in the right, and parry stuff, that's up to you. After this, you're just gonna head across the bridge towards the big tower. There's an elevator puzzle, in quotes, to solve, but first let's get a nearby bonfire just in case. Step on the elevator to head down to the basement, and as you continue, you'll encounter a spiritual dancer sub-boss thing. This enemy was actually really hard for me the first time I played DS3, but with the bonk hammer, he's so easy, he's like a joke. Anyway, out the doors is a bonfire and the next area, but we're not gonna go there yet. Head back up the elevators into the tower, then trigger the elevator but roll as it starts off. After it lowers, it will reveal a second elevator. Step on that and you're right to the tippy top where the giant is. This is the guy who's been tossing those spears at us like a jerk. Give him an olive branch to make peace, and now his spears just won't hurt you. So if you want to get the stuff in the cemetery, it's gonna be a lot easier. On your way back down the elevator, make sure you roll to a nearby ledge halfway through, where you'll find the Onion Knight. Exhaust his dialogue and he'll mention a big fiery demon in the village beneath you. Well, you just happen to have an ice hammer, so run down there and kick its butt. Onion Knight will come to help, but honestly, you'll probably kill it before he shows up. After that, chat with him for some more stuff, and now it's a village time. This village has a lot of goodies and a lot of enemies, but nothing too scary with your hammer, so work your way through it towards the top and the roofs. Once up there, you'll head to the far side where you'll see a tower. Roll or jump from the wooden scaffolding onto said tower, then make sure you have full health. Inside, you'll need to carefully roll to a few of the outcroppings on the way down so as to not turn into paste at the bottom. Once down there, you'll find what we came here for in some boxes, the Chloranthy ring, my true Dark Souls love that I just can't quit. This ring regens stamina faster, which is something we need very badly, so equip that bad boy and don't take it off. We're pretty well kitted now, and this is where I'd probably end the video if I were an underachiever, but there are a few things worth grabbing in the next area, so I'll tell you where they are before letting you off on your own Dark Souls 3 adventure. In the following swampy zone, we're going to grab my favorite armor set and an optional shield. The Fallen Knight's armor set not only looks cool, but it's fantastic medium armor with great stats for the weight that you can wear the whole game if you wish. It's not super heavy, so it works well with our big bonk stick. But before we get that, let's grab that shield I mentioned. From the bonfire, it's straight ahead in the swamp, just leaning against a tree, very easy to find near some spear guys. The green leaf shield grants passive stamina regen when held or on your back and stacks with our stamina ring, making it a decent inclusion should you have the weight to support it. The Fallen Knight armor is also super easy to get. If you are facing the bonfire, it's directly to your left. You'll head into the swamp past a giant enemy crab, and on the little incline leading up on the far side will be a corpse that has the full set. Note that beyond here are 2 NPCs that you can fight if you want. I already said why I like this armor, so feel free to piecemeal it into your set as long as you're not fat rolling. So we have our upgraded icy bonk stick, some great rings, a solid set of armor, and a bunch of options to play with. Where do we go from here? Well, first off, the next place to get the 2-scale Titanite for our weapon is Farah's Keep, which is the poison swamp connected to the crab area, so keep an eye out for another crystalline entity to kill. As you progress, you'll find more rings. Havels increases carry rate, which I found very useful as I could could pair it with better or cooler looking armor. And of course, the Ring of Favor is 100% worth using as it ups everything you want. Speaking of armor, if you aren't huge on this set, feel free to mix and match for both styles and stats. Though honestly, armor in Dark Souls 3 isn't as important as long as you're not fat rolling. Aside from that, I kid you not, this gear that you got in the first few areas can take you through most of the game. And not just take you through, but make most of the game easy mode. Just be aware of the Irithel difficulty spike. It always catches me off guard. If you do want to try a different weapon, the Dragon Slayer's Great Axe you get later in the game from a boss soul is pretty fun, as is Leto's Great Hammer from the DLC, though it's up to you. Overall though, this build is my go-to if I want to do a fun quick run through Dark Souls 3, as it is very powerful, very fun to play, and easy to get strong early. It's a blast of icy murder, so stop watching this guide and get on out there and play some Dark Souls. And I hope you enjoyed this guide. Thank you so much for watching. If you did, please use the usual like, comment, subscribe, trash. But more importantly, check out my other guides on Dark Souls, Elden Ring, and Fallout 4 in the channel. And if you want a Bloodborne one, let me know in the comments. But regardless, go out there and have a great time playing Dark Souls 3.